Hey guys, Miss Raymond here today to teach you how to find the volume of a cylinder. All right, so the formula is stated here: volume equals pi times r squared times h. And we will review what r and h stand for. R stands for radius, h stands for height. All right, review a couple definitions. A cylinder has two identical flat ends that are circular and one curved side. And volume is the amount of space inside a shape measured in cubic units. All right, so now we're going to watch a tutorial on how to find the volume of a cylinder.
Before finding the volume of a cylinder, we should know that the top surface and the bottom surface of any cylinder are congruent to each other. And when finding the volume of any geometric solid that have a surface on the top and the bottom that are congruent to each other, to figure out how to find the volume of that solid, all one has to do is take the formula to find the area of that shape. And because those congruent shapes are circles, we simply write the formula to find the area of a circle. After we find the area of that circle, simply multiplying that answer by the height will add depth to it or give it volume. So we would say the volume of any cylinder is equal to pi r to the second power multiplied by the height of the cylinder. So the next thing that we are going to do to figure out what the volume of this particular cylinder is we are going to substitute 3.14 for pi, and then we're going to multiply that by the radius to the second power. Our radius is 5, so we will raise that to the second power. And of course, we're going to take that and multiply it by the height of the cylinder, which is 6 centimeters. Next, we are going to take our radius and raise that to the second power. And 5 to the second power is 25. You must remember to perform any exponents before doing any multiplication, according to the order of operations. Now we have three terms which must be multiplied. 6 times 25 is something that we can do mentally, so I'm going to do those two terms first. So I'm going to write 3.14, and 25 times 6 is 150. So after we multiply 150 by pi, or 3.14, that will give us the volume of this cylinder. So let's go off on the side here and multiply 3.14 times 150. On the bottom, the first digit that we have to work with is a 0. So we're going to simply drop that 0 down. It is unnecessary to multiply 0 by everything on the top because that is going to give us nothing. So move on to the next digit, which is a 5. 5 times 4 is 20, so we put a 0 in that position, carry a 2. 5 times 1 is 5 plus 2 is 7, and 5 times 3 is 15. Now we have taken care of this place value and this place value. So on the next line, we must put 2 zeros, which represent the 2 place values that we are finished with already. We don't need this 2 up here because that was from a previous step. Next, we take 1 and multiply it by all of the digits on the top, and 1 times 314 is 314. So adding these digits together, we come up with a total of 471.00. Because there were 2 numbers after the decimal in our problem, the same must be true in our answer. So this is why we put the decimal in this location right here. So we would state that the volume of this cylinder is equal to 471 cubic centimeters. Don't forget to label your units with the 3 because volume is measured in cubic units.
All right, so hopefully that tutorial helped a little bit. We are going to go ahead and do some guided practice with finding the volume of cylinders. So find the volume V of each cylinder to the nearest cubic unit. So first of all, we're going to want to look at our formula, right, which is written right here. Volume equals pi times r squared times h. And remember, r stands for radius, and this is a radius, and h stands for height, and this would be our height. Okay, So write the formula, your first step, and then you're going to replace pi with 3.4. Okay, you're going to replace r with 6 because 6 is the radius, so 6 squared. And then you're going to replace the height with 5 because the height is 5 feet, right? And then when you're going to solve, you need to make sure that you solve your exponent here first. So 6 times 6, or 6 squared, right, will give you 36. Okay, and then 36 times 5. Okay, so you're going to multiply 36 times 5 next. And 36 times 5 should give you 180. Okay, and then they took, I'm going to write it out here to the side, 180, right, and multiplied it by pi. So 180 times 3.14. And that should give you, right, should give you 565 cubic feet. All right. And they said to round to the nearest cubic unit. So the 0.2, they just rounded it to a whole number, 565. So the volume is approximately 565 cubic feet. All right. All right, we're going to go ahead and look at another problem for some more guided practice. Okay, so again, find volume V of the cylinder to the nearest cubic unit. Okay, so you want to start, right, with your formula, right? Write your formula, which is V equals pi r squared times h. Remember, they've got this labeled this time. R is radius, h is height. So in this problem, the radius is 4 feet and the height is 7 feet. Okay, so then you're going to replace pi, right, with 3.14. You're going to replace r, or radius, with 4, so 4 squared, and you're going to replace h with 7 because the height was 7 feet. All right, so there's all your numbers. Okay, again, you're going to want to start with your multiplying your exponent here. So 4 squared is the same thing as 4 times 4, right? So 4 times 4 should give you 16, right? So 16, and then you're going to multiply 16 times 7, okay? And what should that give you? 16 times 7 should give you 112, okay? I'm going to go over here to the side. So now the only thing we need to do now is multiply times 3.14, or pi. So 3.14 times 112, right? And if you multiply all that out, you should get 351.68 cubic feet. Now, they gave you the direction for this problem to round to the nearest cubic unit. So in this case, they rounded up to 352 because the 8 here in the hundredths place will tell you to, oh, excuse me, well, the 6 will tell you, I'm looking in the wrong one, the tenths place will tell you to round your 1 up to a 2. So the volume is about 352 cubic feet. All right, so if you don't already have a calculator handy, go ahead and pause the video to get yourself a calculator, whether it's on a tablet or on the computer or cell phone or a handheld calculator, because you're going to be trying some problems here in just a minute. All right, so hopefully you have your calculator now. So we're going to practice with some problems, finding the volume of cylinders. So our directions say to find the volume of the cylinder. So the first thing we need, of course, is our formula. So hopefully you remember what it is, but if not, I'm going to write it here for you. So V equals pi times R squared times height, right? So it might be helpful to label what the radius R and H height, where they are on your cylinder. So this is your radius, because remember this is a circle, both ends are a circle. So this would be your radius and 3 would be your height. Okay, so now that you have your formula and you have everything labeled, now it's just a matter of substituting your numbers. Okay, so I want you to go ahead and try that. Remember, it even tells you right here to use 3.14 for pi, right? So go ahead and write that down. So that's going to be 3.14. And then you need to substitute your radius, so 5, right? Okay, and then your height, which is labeled over here in your diagram, right? So go ahead and substitute H with 3. Okay, and then you should be ready to solve. So go ahead and solve, and then we will go over it. Okay. All right, so remember we always start with our exponents. Hopefully you remember that. So 5 squared means 5 times 5, right? Remember that. So that's 5 times 5, which is going to give you 25. And then we need to multiply 25 times 3, right? And 25 times 3 should give us what? 75, right? So that gives you 75. And now you just need to bring down your 3.4, your pi. So multiply 3.14 times 75, right? Okay, so this is when your calculator comes in handy. So 3.14 times 75, see what that gives you. I'll give you a minute. All right, so hopefully you got 235.5 cubic units. So let's check to see if that is right. All right. They'll show us here again, just so you can see it again. Here is a step-by-step. Let me get this out. Okay, here's a step-by-step look at the problem, right? So volume of a cylinder equals pi r squared times h, which is what we did. So you substitute 5 the radius, so 5 squared, h, the height was 3, and then they solved, right? 5 squared is 25, 25 times 3 gives you 75, right? And then 75 times pi, right? And we found the actual unit, so that gave you 235.5 units, cubic units. All right. go ahead and try another problem. All right, so here is another problem for you to try. Okay, so I am going to go ahead and write up the formula for you and give you the opportunity to try this problem. So let me get my pen again and let me write down our formula. So volume equals pi times r squared times h for height. And then I'm going to label the radius and height. Okay, and then I'm going to let you go ahead and try that problem, and then we will check it. All right, so hopefully you've had the opportunity to try that problem out. Okay, so you replace pi, right? Let me get my pen again here. So pi 3.14. Our radius is 4, right? So 4 squared, and our height was 8, right? Times 8. All right, so 4 times 4 should have given you 16, right? And then 16 times 8 should give you what? 128. Hopefully that's what you got. And then you're going to multiply that times 3.14, just pi. And that should give us 401.92 cubic units. All right, we're going to look at a step-by-step solution just to make sure we understand. All right. Okay, so here it is again. So volume of cylinder pi r squared times h. So r was 4 squared, h was 8, so 4 squared times 8. Then they multiplied 4, or solved 4 squared, which gave them 16. 16 times 8 gave you 128. 128 pi gives you 401.92 cubic units. All right, next question. All right, find the volume of the cylinder. So we're going to use 3.14 for pi. Okay, so volume equals pi times r squared times height. All right, so we should know by now what is the radius and what is the height, right? So, yep, 2 should be your radius and 8 should be your height. All right, I'm going to go ahead and let you solve that one, and then we are going to check it here in just a minute. All right. All right. I'm going to go in and put what I think is the answer, and then we're going to check it. So 100.8 cubic units. All right, so we're going to look at a step-by-step solution to make sure we understand how we got our answer. All right, so let me clear this out. All right, so we have our formula, volume of cylinder, pi r squared times h. So in this case, our radius was 2, so 2 squared gave us 4. All right, height was 8, right? So we multiply 4 times 8, right? We'll get 32, and then 32 times pi. So again, we want to find out what it is. So we were going to multiply 32 times 3.14, and that gives us 100.48 cubic units. Awesome. All right, next question. All right, and this is the last question. All right, so go ahead and find the volume of this cylinder. I will give you the formula. Volume equals pi times r squared times height, or h, right? All right, and then should know by now, hopefully, this is your radius and this is your height. All right, so I'm going to give you a chance to solve it and then we will check it. All right, so let's go ahead and see what we get. So I believe I got 502.4 cubic units, and let's see if that's correct. Hopefully that's all right, and we're going to look at a step-by-step solution to make sure we understand. All right. All right, so here we go. We've got our formula, pi r squared times h, and in this case, the radius is 4. So 4 squared should give you 16, right? The height was 10, right? And 16 times 10 should give you 160, and then 160 times pi. Remember, we are going to replace pi with 3.14, and when you multiply that, all right, that 6 is not too good. You should get 502.4 cubic units. So the volume of the cylinder is approximately 502, excuse me, 0.4 cubic units. All right. All right, so hopefully you learned a little something today, and you'll have the opportunity to practice some more on IXL.com and also in some worksheets as well. All right, that's all I have for today.